Why is it so hard to be in our body? Stored trauma is part of it. We have an uncomfortableness or a fear of being present with the energy and sensation in our body. It makes us feel unsafe. And when we feel unsafe, we go into some kind of a response to that. We generally tighten up, we contract. We have a lot of experience with that because it's so often the case. We're not comfortable. We have mindfulness and these practices that we do to come in and be really present with our body. And then we find there's a lot of thoughts about that too. But just to have a present moment experience of feeling what's in the body right now as we check in with ourselves is a good practice. And to do that many, many times. I'll often just do it when I'm sitting working at my desk, at my computer. I'll pause for a moment, check in, notice my shoulders that might be a little bit tight, or maybe I'm breathing a little bit more shallow and I could take a few deep breaths. So we need experience being in our body. And then we have all the thoughts we have about our body. It's not the right size. It doesn't work right. My body's getting older. And then we might go into ruminating about the past or fear and catastrophic thinking about the future, because we really do like to know what's going to happen. And it's really true that we don't know. So to be feeling this kind of powerlessness, or I don't know what's going to happen and I'm not in control, is also very hard for us. So we do this foundational step. We learn how to be in our physical body. We know how to relax and soften our body. We know how to come out of the fight, flight, and freeze responses enough that we can do deep diaphragmatic breathing. There's a recent study that came out this week about the benefits of meditation and different kinds of yoga and mindfulness practices. And breathing for 5 minutes was found to be the most helpful in terms of relaxation, reducing stress. And part of the reason for that is because when we are breathing in a healthy way, which means diaphragmatic, smooth, continuous, we're not holding our breath, that signals to our nervous system that we're safe. When we're holding our breath, when our body's tight, it signals to our nervous system that there's danger here. So this process of inhabiting our body through our physical body and through our breath is a really key element of healing. A lot of us feel like this. We've been at war with our body our whole life. Whether it's the diet culture, if you have a larger body like I do, whether you have a body that doesn't work the way other people's bodies do, or maybe you have a slimmer body that you've had shame around. Lots of us have had things happen to our body, and it's not an unusual thing. This is really common for everybody. Everybody has some sense of, I don't fit in, I'm not approved of, some kind of fear around this. And we all have some kind of sense of shame, often from childhood. And we all have the experience of not being able to control what happens in and to our body. So what are we going to do with that? So really the only thing we can do is to bring empathy, a connection, patience, kindness. This is one of the most important relationships we'll ever have. And when we look back to last week, when we were working with disconnection around trauma, this is what happens. We disconnect, we leave our body, we go somewhere else that's more comfortable, that's not as threatening. So to lean in and work with, how can I be connected in a way that's nourishing and feels comfortable, but also really gets deeply into that feeling of, this is my body, this is where I live. This isn't separate from me somehow. And the mind-body connection has been known now for a long time. In the West, it was always known. In the East, there was always that mind-body connection of knowing that it's all one system. We have our physical body, we have our experiences in our life, we have our beliefs, we have all of that, and it all happens through and is affected by and affects what happens in our body. So the cultural pressure that we have Particularly harmful is the diet, clothing, and cosmetics industry. It's cruel for us to feel somehow not good enough because our body doesn't match some kind of cultural ideal that's not even possible. So, because this has been conditioned into us throughout our whole lives, it takes a lot of practice and persistence to overcome these toxic beliefs. So, when we have that personal feeling of shame, one of the things that shame does is it makes us want to avoid what's going on. We want to get out of there. Recognizing that's the case and coming back in is the way that we see these patterns and see this conditioning and then see through it as well. Let's go into the practice, the inquiry. Take a few deep breaths. You might want to look around the space that you're in. Just notice that you're safe here. Your body is physically safe. You could take a few deep breaths, clear your mind, relax your body. We're looking into becoming a trusted friend to my body. There's a lot of elements in that, which is good in a way because we have a lot of ways that we can connect, a lot of ways that we can see what it is that's going on. What is this relationship about? And how can I have a closer relationship? So let's start with just feeling our body. Feel the feet on the ground, or if you're seated, cross-legged, feel whatever is connecting. You might be leaning back or lying down. You can feel the whole back of your body. You can feel the warmth of your own hands. You could hold your hands. You put your hands on your heart. We take in a few deep breaths and then soften the muscles of our shoulders, of our jaw, of our gut. You can notice what that feels like to soften. Feel the flow of air in your nostrils. We have all of our senses: sight, sound, hearing, smells. And sit with this inquiry. This is my body, and I want to connect. With any somatic inquiry, we're really dropping it in like a drop of something into a pool of water. We're just noticing, what are the ripples? What's the effect? What are the associations? This is my body, and I want to connect. That very likely doesn't feel 100% true. Well, it might. There's a lot of variation in our experience with that. We always want to connect when there's pleasure. We almost always don't want to connect when there's pain or contraction, fear. Notice what comes up in your response when you consider that. This is my body, and I want to be connected. The big reason why we don't want to be in our bodies is because of stored trauma. The energy, sensations, it doesn't feel safe. And being in our body and being present with those sensations, the energies, the beliefs that form because of our experiences, our core deficiency beliefs, it really is the gateway to healing. The way that we heal is by being present. Notice your response. There might be a feeling of, well, I don't want it to be that way. That's, of course, very natural. I want to connect. I want to know, what is it that's stored in my body? I'm an adult now, and I can be with it in a way that I never could have as a child or as an earlier adult. I want to connect. And one way to connect is to feel our physical body, to feel our breath. Let ourselves stay steady in that. Another element of this might be to look at, do I trust my body? So often our physical body takes a hit for the team, so to speak. So if we're emotionally distraught, we might do something that's not good for our health of our body, but that helps to alleviate the emotional distress. A lot of addictions come into this. We sit mesmerized in a gaming or on the Netflix or something. We eat, drink. There's all kinds of ways that we know that we're not doing something that's healthy for our body. And yet the priority is we need to be able to get through this moment. Even given that, notice what your response is. I trust my body to do its best for me. There might be a lot of complexity there. Yeah, but my body's not working well, or there's things that are breaking down, or whatever your experience is there. But really look into that for a couple of minutes. Let's sit with that. Is your body on your own side? Is it trying to punish you? Is it trying to do its best under these very difficult working conditions, often that happen for our bodies? Some of them because of things we do, like addictions, and some of them just the world we live in is very stressful. It's very difficult. What's your sense of that? Is there some goodwill? Is there a sense of my body really is trying to do its best? Sometimes there would be energy or sensations. Notice your breath. Stay connected in your body. If you've disconnected, just come back. A few deep breaths. And another way we could inquire is, I feel increasingly safe in my body. What does that feel like to you? Is that true? So sometimes when we have a lot of traumatic memory and stored trauma, it feels like our body is hijacking us. Suddenly something triggers us or activates us, and away we go into the past. And then we also have a lot of tools now to bring ourselves back. We have box breathing or any of the tools to work with traumatic memory. We have a lot of ways we can do that. We can do tapping, we can frame the image. So, one of the ways that we feel safer is we begin to trust that we'll notice. So, these mindfulness practices are paying off. We're noticing sooner. And then when something's going on in our body, we're able to sit with it and welcome it, perhaps, and do some longer out breaths. We have tools to allow our body to know that it's safe. What comes up for you when you look at that? It feels increasingly safe to be in my body. And safe also might mean not completely regulated or comfortable, but resilient and strong enough to be steady with the uncomfortableness or with the memories or with whatever it is that's coming up. So our window of tolerance around safety might be a lot wider than it used to be. I know from experience that I can have this kind of activation and then I can steady myself again. So that's another way that we can feel safer. We know we can come back into regulation. There's no right or wrong answers. Stay present with whatever it is that's here. And if you're disconnecting a bit, that's fine. That's just what's here. See if you could come back again. And then letting all of that go and really feeling into, and maybe you have your hand or hands on your heart as you're doing this. I'm willing to cultivate a loving relationship with my body. I'm willing to become a trusted friend to and with my body. I have goodwill. Let's sit with that for a moment. Notice your response. Let your body soften. If your mind is going into arguments or plans, just let that move to the background too for a moment. I'm just working with this willingness. I'm willing to cultivate this loving relationship with my body, to treat it well, to remember it's there, to be whole and connected. Before we come out of the practice over the next minute or so, notice what you've learned. What was that experience like? It might be quite familiar. There might have been a few nuances that came forward. What is it that you would like to take forward and bring more into your awareness, work with a little bit more? And then when you're ready, open your eyes and finish the practice.